Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Amanda Louise Campbell. Welcome to my home in Greenville, South Carolina. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Amanda Louise Campbell. I'm an interior designer. Welcome to my home in Greenville, South Carolina. We started looking for a home. We had lived in a condo right after we got married, and we started looking for a home as we started to want to grow our family, and started looking at different houses, and we're really just drawn to this one. It was built in the 60s and had a lot of character, but had also had updates done to it throughout the years where it didn't feel like a huge undertaking. And so when we moved in, we were really drawn to things like we're really close to Furman University where we live, and the house had been constructed with brick from a dining hall that they had taken down. So we loved that there was this interest with the architecture in that way, and the neighborhood was full of old Furman alumni, and it just felt like a real community here. It's also really close to the mountains, and so we can be at state parks and on trails on the weekends, and so we really loved the location and the architecture of the house in that way. And then also just we're really drawn to the scale of it. It was big enough but not too big, and it had updates done to it that we were able to build upon and not feel like we were starting with a blank slate. The home it's a split level house, but it kind of toes the line. It has like some elements that feel a little bit more mid-century, like because it was built in the 60s, and the neighborhood has some more mid-century homes. And then it also kind of toes the line with cottagey, and I think that's where my personal style lies. It's a culmination of a lot of different things. So I really liked that the house kind of could lean different ways, but also take on furniture from different periods and kind of become a palette for a lot of different things to be layered on top of it. So this space has been something that has just like transformed the way we live. It used to be a screen porch. We decided when we were having our second baby to transform the space into a more livable space for every day. And we put windows in. We kind of kept the footprint of it. The ceiling's the same. We added in V-groove along the base and just all the walls to really give it this kind of camp cabin-y feel that I love, and put in big windows that let a lot of light in. The furniture in here is just kind of to maximize lounging space. This is really the space that we spend the most time in, watching TV and entertaining friends. Some of my favorite lamps that I have are these flower lamps, and so they kind of were a jumping off point for the palette in here, and have just layered in like colors that feel happy, and it's a great space to spend time with the family. So this sofa is from one of our favorite vendors that we use in our design work a lot, Coley Home. And so it's like a really great linen stripe that I think adds like a nice casualness to the space. I love the coast, and I love the beach, and I love anything that feels that way, even though we're 3 or 4 hours from the coast. Anytime I can make our house feel a little bit more beachy, I'm into that. So I love the stripe on this. I think it has like a real casual nature out here. And then this sofa here was a client, and they were getting rid of it when we were working on their space, and I just fell in love with it and brought it home. And it's moved around we've had it since before we lived in this house, and it has just always been one of my favorite things. This little piece here is from an artist in Greenville, Eva McGill-Oliver, and Kevin and Lula went to one of our favorite galleries, Art and Light, and picked it out for me one Christmas. And I just love kind of taking unexpected areas and hanging art pieces, and this room doesn't lend itself to be super symmetrical anyways, so I think when you just kind of lean in on that and hang something in kind of an unexpected place, it just makes it obvious that you weren't trying to make it symmetrical and didn't quite get there. The ottoman is just something from online that I ordered, and then I had our seamstress make a slipcover that I could easily throw into the wash, and it's the one place that our kids are allowed to eat in here, and they have little picnics on the ottoman all the time. The disco ball is one of my favorite things and something that people really love, a little unexpected moment. We hung that up for a party one time, and it was kind of hung down. We had a dining table out here for the party, and then the way that the light comes in here in the morning and hits that is just magical, and it's such a fun way to have coffee or tea in here and have little pings of light around the space, and it is really fun and magical. So the ceiling was done when the former owner lived at the house, and she made this a screen porch. And so I kind of toyed with like, was I going to paint it when we did this room, and just love like the coziness that it adds, this little touch of wood. I love bringing in as much vintage as possible. So, and I think color on vintage items is a really fun way to like bring in intentional color and kind of unexpected color. So this blue lamp I found at a vintage shop in Greenville, and then this green and red is, you know, traditionally a color scheme that is Christmassy, but it's one of my favorite color schemes to play with. So I loved this little moment of this unexpected table, this folk art, and can just love when you have a piece like that and can imagine somebody cutting out that wonky shape at some point and making a table. And then this is like one of my favorite items that we have. It's moved around. It's been in our bedroom. It's been everywhere. And it is just kind of a favorite seat within the house. This artwork is from Susan Melrath. She again is at Art and Light Gallery, and I found that right before we had our second baby. So this is our dining area and study. So for a long time before we had the sunroom, this was our main living area. It took me a really long time. It's hard to admit defeat as a designer, but it took me a really long time to kind of figure out how to use this space. And so finally with the study, we created a kind of round circular conversation area where we play games and read books, and made it just kind of embrace the coziness of the space because it doesn't get great lighting. And so then because this did create kind of a thoroughfare, I love whenever you can do a banquette and kind of pull your dining space over and not have wasted space behind chairs that feels awkward to kind of tuck in behind a table. So we are not super formal people. We're pretty casual, and even, you know, our Thanksgiving table tends to have a level of casualness to it. So we embrace like the banquette. It's a really fun place to kind of linger after dinner with friends, or we sit here and do homework. My 6-year-old often has this set up as her office and has an old computer that I gave her and paperwork everywhere. This wall has absorbed some of my favorite artwork that we've collected over the years, but it's all anchored by, again, a piece that Lula did. I got an old canvas and added some texture to it and painted it white, and then kind of let her go to town with some colors that were kind of reminiscent, like, or represented around our house. So I love that piece so much, and remember the day when she made it in our driveway, and it is one of the most special things in our house, I think. So we took that and kind of took the color scheme of that and built gallery off of it with pieces that we've collected over the years. And it's just one of my favorite moments. We've really embraced how cozy it is in here, and I love that. So with like the casual nature of this space and needing it to kind of host Thanksgiving, but also be somewhere that we're enjoying every day because it is our only dining space in the house, I loved these vintage chairs that I found at Rock House Antiques in Greenville, and love that they are really easy for my children to it's not a ton of upholstery when we have the banquette that could lend itself to stains. And then this bowl from our friend Lisa in New Orleans, she made that, and it's such a fun, like, kind of wonky pottery piece that we keep oranges in all the time. I love whenever we can just keep fruit around the house at easily accessible for the kids. And the table was just something we found at High Point at Market, and I love like the architecture of the legs. On this side of the room, this is what we currently call our study. For many years, this was our living room, and we had a sofa here, and then we had a sofa here, and we like had a really hard time trying to figure out how to lay it out and make it feel natural. Nothing in this space is symmetrical or, you know, vaguely lined up with anything else. So being able to have the use of the sunroom for our kind of everyday living space allowed us to really embrace the coziness of these two spaces and lean into texture and creating a cozier atmosphere. We have this round table here that the kids often are doing crafts on or coloring, and really this is where we sit and read books more than anything with the kids. And then we have a little game table that Kevin and I like to play dominoes sometimes, or we'll host friends there, and have our bar and our record player. One of the first things we did when we moved into the house was just kind of cabinetry on the bottom, and then it had just kind of a void here. And because I'm a collector of little things, I needed somewhere to have books and little collections. So we had these shelves put in, I wallpapered the backs, and because our house, we really don't have a ton of trim work. We have one color kind of throughout most of our walls, and it's all Benjamin Moore Simply White. And so I liked the idea of adding in this wallpaper that has the white, but also adds in another light hue that kind of just adds some texture to the back of these bookcases. And then it houses a lot of my design books, and for years, Kevin would get me dog figurines for any kind of special event. He would find them at vintage shops in Greenville. And it was just kind of this fun go-to gift that we always got to see like what he would find. And it was this cute thing. It got a little out of hand and we had to stop doing it because I was turning into, the collection was getting too big. But so we have a lot of dog figurines and I love them, even though currently we don't have a dog. It's still a huge part of our personality. So this bar is a piece that I found in Round Top on a buying trip with my team. We thought we'd use it as a desk potentially in our bedroom, and then ended up it was a little bit low for that, so we've made a bar here, and it's a fun place to just create an atmosphere in here that feels really cozy. Everybody can just kind of make their own drinks, and we'll typically have an ice bucket out, and it's just a great space for entertaining. And then this piece here is one of my favorite art pieces that we have. I commissioned this probably like 10 years ago now from my friend Glory. It's of our dog, and it just is this really bright, happy piece that I think kind of is an interesting pop in this room that is a little bit more monotone. These pieces here are from Diane Kilgore Condon in Greenville, and they're one of my favorite kind of design hacks. Like whenever you have a wall that needs like a little bit of movement to it, like we, in our design work a lot, we'll do walls of these birds, and they're just kind of a fun way to add some movement to a space. And then for the space, like we just really loved the idea of bringing in texture with the chairs and not having a lot of upholstery in here. So we brought in 4 of these matching chairs to create kind of a circular conversation area. We pull them up closer, like when we're doing puzzles with the kids, and then kind of embrace this kind of creamy yellow color scheme. So went with this fabric on the pillows, and then this fabric is from a collaboration I did with Meredith Walker, an artist out of Columbia, South Carolina. We did a little fabric line last year, and that was really fun to do something different creatively and kind of come up with our own textiles. So it's fun to have those here and remember that. So when we did the kitchen renovation, we added this bar to kind of, this wall had always felt kind of flat and had this just rectangle cut in it that was there before we moved in, and we wanted to add some architectural element to it and something that had a little bit more interest. So we brought a bar out, and there's been times like with different room setups, we've had bar stools here and would open up these shutters and have it be somewhere where we could kind of have friends over here while we're making dinner and have it really be conversational. But in this iteration of the room, we had a carpenter build a bookshelf that just kind of slid under there, and this is where all the kids' books live. And so it just really embraces that kind of library feeling. These shutters were something that I found at Wilson Girls, a great vintage shop in Greenville, and they just happened to fit it perfectly, and I loved the kind of light that they let through, but it allows us to kind of open up to the kitchen when we want to and close it off, make it feel like 2 different spaces. And then one of my favorite things that we have framed are Lula, our 6-year-old's little first Converses that she wore. And it's just a fun moment to remember her little spunky personality starting to come out with her bright pink Converses. So I love the casualness of kind of plug-in sconces thrown throughout a space. And because we haven't done one big renovation, we haven't had the opportunity to really like insert in a lot of purposeful lighting in that way. So I think it's fun for me just to kind of change spaces and add in like this plug-in sconce. And then this is just a shell mirror that I found at a vintage shop and kind of taped this photo to on a whim when I was working on things one day. And I just love that kind of casual moment of one of my favorite photos of Kevin with Lula. We've definitely done several renovations, but it was nice because the house was kind of move-in ready when we got here, and we could do things like just paint. And then I really have loved the opportunity to take on like one room at a time. And with this being my profession, we help clients undergo huge renovations all the time. But for myself, I think I like to take one space at a time and treat it a little bit slower and kind of see what season of life we're in. Like the sunroom was something we did right before we had our second baby, and she was due in December, and I just was obsessed with making sure we had like a sunny spot to have this December baby to offset the baby blues. And so we kind of just took a space that was formerly a screen porch and decided to make it what we needed at the time. And it's been really nice just to kind of let the house evolve and grow with us. And I think that our houses kind of call for different things in different seasons of life. So we've taken on a kitchen renovation, and we've taken on a laundry room and bathrooms, and really at this point touched every part of the house. But it was nice to have a blank slate that we could move into that didn't require a gut job right from the get-go. So this is the kitchen, and we renovated the space probably 3 years ago now. When we moved in, we kind of had these grand plans of moving it around, and we were going to do a bigger kitchen on the back of the house. And then after we lived here, we just really kind of enjoyed the smaller space. We're not huge cooks, so we've never really felt like we needed a huge kitchen. And so we just decided to embrace the space that allowed us to go ahead and do the kitchen instead of like continuing to wait to do this really big renovation. And so we tried to do it kind of creatively. We knew that we wanted to do custom cabinetry just so that we could make use of every inch of the space in the best way. So we did things like we did custom cabinets to kind of accommodate small appliances, and then worked in this big stainless steel work table that takes up a lot of square footage that could have been a really big piece of the budget if done in with custom cabinetry, but we were able to kind of balance things that way. So I love having a sofa in the kitchen, and this is definitely where everyone kind of covets, where we all want to be in the morning. Especially the light's really great when the leaves aren't on the trees. And so this little vintage sofa, I found like this vintage fabric and decided to pipe it in a fun kind of contrast color, and then put in these poppy pillows that have a little bit, I love like a gingham in a kitchen. And so we all really love to spend time here. And then this again, like with our dog collections, this has been something that's evolved over time, and we've collected different dog art, and I love kind of having it all together here at our spot where we drop keys and mail and that kind of thing. With the kitchen, I love kind of the classic nature of like a white kitchen with butcher block countertops and stainless steel appliances. So we opted to do that. This really big sink has been great, and I love that the washboard like kind of goes all the way back, so it just is really clean and easy to take care of. We worked in this just kind of furniture piece here. It's really nice to be able to kind of move out of the way if we need to just have a little bit more working space where we can prep, but it also is a great place to dry dishes or kind of congregate, and we'll have a chopping block there sometimes. So it's just, I love a space that can kind of like work differently in different times, and when you need it to do different things, it can change. We have bar stools that are really great. They're just outdoor bar stools. So this is one of the main places that the kids eat, and it's nice just to not have to worry about fabric or anything like that. And then the stove, like when we were working within the space and knowing that it was going to be a small kitchen, we opted to do a 24-inch range. And that was probably the thing that I got the most pushback on when we were doing the kitchen, was if that was going to be workable. But pasta is kind of the only thing that I cook or know how to cook, and I don't ever plan to try to put a turkey in there. So it's worked out perfectly well for our family, and I like that we have a lot more counter space opposed to taking up a lot of space with a range that we personally wouldn't use that much. When we were doing the kitchen, one, because it's like open to other spaces of the house, we were kind of forced to like pull the white throughout. But I also love that it's given me this kind of canvas for collections, and we did things like open shelving in a lot of areas because I love like being really intentional about having beautiful things. And I think having a kitchen with a lot of open storage has made me be intentional about cookware that I like to look at and dishes, and not holding on to like that fry pan that you've had since college just because you like have it around. It made us be really intentional about the things that we have in the space and wanting to be things that we think are beautiful and want to see every day. At a young age, I became interested in interior design and really became obsessed with the idea that even like within my own room, I could create an environment that was exactly what I wanted it to be. And whether that was, you know, painting the walls or getting a new comforter or whatever, like the smallest moment was, it was like the space that I could control the environment of. And that was really just impactful as even a kid to kind of create these environments and be able to be in control of how it felt, and became just obsessed with that idea on a grander scale and made it a profession. My design style, we use a lot of color, we use a lot of local art within our work, and my personal style definitely reflects that also. I think within our home, like I've wanted to create a kind of blank canvas that these things can be layered on top of and can change like as I collect more art or different art, and can kind of change throughout time. So this is our mudroom, and when we did our kitchen renovation, we kind of took this space at the same time, and we were able to use our old kitchen cabinets to create cabinetry out here that gave us the space that I used it as a potting bench. And then when we have parties, we fill the sink with ice, and we have, you know, food and bar set up here. Before, this space was just a 2-car garage. And so when we did the kitchen renovation, we were just always like frustrated that we park in the driveway, we walk through, and it was just always kind of a disaster. You're walking through a garage with cars and all the junk from your kids and all the things. So we decided to take the kitchen cabinets. We had a carpenter build out more cabinetry. We brought in things like this is just a bookshelf that we had our painter paint the same color as everything else, so it had more of a custom feel. And so this space has by far been the biggest transformation in like the way that we live our daily lives. It has given us a space that like my kids do crafts out here. We do things, like I said, like pot plants, and it's been a game changer. So we filled the space with one big rug and made it feel really homey, but also really workable and can do a lot of things. These are really great. They're called snowshoe chairs. They were made in Vermont, and I got these from my friend Michael, who owns an awesome vintage store here in Greenville. It's called Artifacts, and they, I just loved them when we found them. My husband really liked them too. And so they have been so awesome that we keep them hung up. And when the kids want to play on the ground, we pull them down for our old parent bodies that need help not sitting on the ground all the time. So they're really fun, and they add a little bit of texture to the walls, and they're great. So the wall color is Convivial Yellow by Sherwin-Williams. It's the same color that is in our sunroom. And we played around, like I thought I was gonna wanna do something different out here, but we actually just had this repainted not too long ago. It was white before. I thought I was gonna maybe go dark or moody, but we have just loved that bright yellow color so much. And it is such a happy way to start the day. So we decided just to pull it out here too. I also went to Nikki Kehoe's showroom in New York not too long ago, and I loved like how everything was just painted the same hue of butter yellow. And so we kind of copied that a little bit on the lights up here. We just ordered like the same white enamel light, and then had our painter spray everything the same, so it's really cohesive and feels a lot more like custom than it is. On this side of the room, we, again, like this was some cabinetry that was in our kitchen when we demoed the existing kitchen in the space. So we worked that in and then had a carpenter build these big kind of locker style cabinets on each side of it. And this was all the junk that used to be in our garage on like open shelving. So now we walk in and it's all neatly tucked away. Like this is full of my 6-year-old's art supplies. And if I opened it, it would probably be an explosion of like glitter and markers. And then we have like pet items and paint in one and stuff like that. So it's just been a really great way to give us the space to hold all of those items that you accumulate and pile up in garages. When we did the space, we had like this old door from our renovation, and I had our carpenter put legs on it and make it this countertop table that I later made a table skirt for. So this just pops off and like the whole top of this table is covered in paint, and my kids can craft out here, and we have stools that go under it. And so it's really great that we can dress it up when we want to entertain or have the space feel more put together. But it can also, this room can really be very utilitarian. Found some great vintage sconces out here and a big mirror to kind of dress up the space, like I was saying, and make it feel like it can really toe the line between a lot of different ways that we like to use it. This piece here is one of my favorite things that Lula, our 6-year-old's ever created. I was kind of messing around with painting myself one day and had prepped this canvas, and she wanted to join me. So she ended up, I had the palette kind of picked, which was a nice like hack for kids art of choosing the palette for them. And then she did her thing, and it's just really fun remembrance of like her being this sweet little like 2-year-old who wanted to join me in my creative endeavors. And now I'll show you the garden. And this is our courtyard. So when we did the renovation of the mudroom, this used to be just kind of a 16-foot garage bay. And we took it and we put in a single car garage door, and then we came in with a window and a door to create more of this moment of entry for friends. And this is how we enter the house all the time. We also added this little porch onto the space so that it felt much more welcoming than just kind of the chopped off side of your house that just has a huge garage door. And then this space is really great. Like I have this collection of kind of vintage furniture that we've collected over the years, and we love to hang out here with friends from the neighborhood or just friends with kids and stuff. And the driveway is such a fun place for the kids to play with sidewalk chalk or like ride cars and stuff like that. So it's just been a really fun, entertaining space that we've embraced and made work for us. The lady who lived here before, Miss Mary, had been a master gardener, and she had really taken a lot of great care in the yard, but had gotten older and all the shrubs were really overgrown and it just wasn't as fresh as we wanted it. So we kind of undertake taking it down and getting it back to a starting point. And then I kind of became obsessed with YouTube gardening shows and tried to take it on myself over the next couple of years. I originally called in my friend Tessa Penner, who was working with Dabney Peoples, who's a wonderful garden designer in Greenville, and they ended up coming in and helping us with some plans for the space that we executed a little bit over time on our own. And then finally this past summer, we brought in, Corey Golding helped us bring it all together, and we brought it down to scratch and added in a really nice just kind of base for creating the garden out front. So we added in a couple years ago this garden gate, and then it enters into a courtyard that has just been a really sweet place to entertain friends and neighbors. So within the garden design, we really wanted to incorporate the swing, but we have 2 kids now, so we needed like something that felt a little bit more like a play space. So we've added in a slide, and we have this, and it's just been, like I said, this really great place to spend time with friends in the neighborhood. And so we have like a little garden area back there with some raised beds, and then you can see the architecture of the home more. This is the brick I love so much. It was part of Furman University's old dining hall, and so the character of the outside just has so much charm because of that, and then kind of like has a real cottagey look with the new landscaping. So this tree was one of our favorite things when we first saw the house. We saw the house in April, and the dogwood tree was blooming, and it just felt like this really special moment. And then it's kind of been this marker for our family where lots of special events. The dogwood tree has been blooming, so it's been kind of this iconography that we've attached to as a family and have adopted the dogwood leaf and the dogwood symbol as just something that means a lot to our family. Historically, dog person has been a huge part of my personality for years, and we have tons of dog art and dog figurines and had a precious like yellow lab beagle mix for years. And would have told you until 6 months ago I was pretty like anti-cat, and then 6 months ago lady showed up at our house and was getting rounder by the day, and I was very much in denial that it meant that babies were coming, and one day came home and we had 6 kittens. So this summer has been full of cats and an altercation in my personality that I didn't see coming, and we're very much cat people now. So this is Lady. This is one of our favorite entertaining spaces. This is our back patio, and we often will have dinner parties out here, and we have these kind of galvanized tubs, water troughs that we have on these rolling carts so we can kind of move them around. We've had them planted with different things like over the years, and recently the thing I had them in them did not like all the sun that this space gets, so they all died. And so I had my husband cut some bamboo off of his parents' property, and we're getting ready for a dinner party. So I really love just like how cozy it's going to feel out here, especially at nighttime. It's going to feel like you're in just a little outdoor room. We have these 2 tables that we can kind of move around the space, and if we want to set up separate dining areas or pull them out all together, we can. But it's nice to kind of create one long table that we can entertain friends, and it's just a fun spot for that. So this space was really fun. We did this when our first was young, and we did this stock tank pool that is just really great for toddlers and a fun spot where she can play, and now our second is enjoying it a lot. I definitely want friends and family to feel like they've received a warm hug when they walk in. I think we really try to create an environment that is full of like showing off our personalities, and I love to have kids art everywhere and things that just kind of show who lives here. And I think that we've created a really warm environment that people want to hang out at and enjoy with us. So this is the entryway where, you know, when we're entertaining a little bit more formally, guests would come in, and it kind of enters off of our front garden. We have just a table here, and then I have a mirror that I found at a consignment store, and it had this really fun canvas inset. It had like parrots painted on it, which wasn't as much my thing. So I had my friend Jean Wilson Freeman paint dogwood flowers on it, just because that means a lot to us as a family. And so it's kind of a special moment that sets the tone for this space. And we recently wallpapered in here just this really kind of soft, happy yellow and white pattern, and I love what it's done for the space. There's been times where I've had all the walls galleried with artwork and still have a lot that we haven't put back up, but I'm just kind of enjoying it being this soft, calm moment to enter, and then kind of dispersing out to areas that have like more collections and more gallery walls. So it's been nice. This railing we did this year, we did have just kind of the original railing to the house, and it was metal and it was fun, but I really wanted something with some more character. And so we had a carpenter do little dogwood flower cutouts in these balusters, and then we painted all the flooring so that it really felt bright and happy in here, because it is one of the darker spots in our house. It's just a fun place where we kind of will tack up kids' artwork and family photos, and like it to be somewhere where you enter the house, you kind of see what you're getting with the rest of the space and kind of get a feel for who we are and what our house is like. This year, our team, we came up with a signature candle, because I think scent is like such a huge part of the feeling of home and creating an environment. So we have our own Amanda Louise Interiors candle now that I'm really proud of. And so I always have that burning and kind of setting the tone for the house. So the ceiling light is something that I really love. It came out of my friend Michael's house, and him and his partner were in debate about it, and Scott really hated it and Michael really loved it, and so I'm just really glad to keep it living on and being in our space. It's a really special thing to have something from their house. And the trim colors, we've got this is Sherwin-Williams Antiquity on the door. We really love I really love greens and kind of the mixture of all different shades of them. So the antiquity is on the door, and then on the railing we have Benjamin Moore Mediterranean Olive, which is our trim color kind of throughout the exterior of the house. And so it was just kind of a nice connective piece to bring in and have that color scheme repeated. So this is our main bedroom, and before we moved in, the former owner had kind of taken 2 bedrooms and made it one large main suite, or large bedroom, still a tiny bathroom, but large bedroom. And so we have kind of had it set up in different ways. Our bed used to be on this wall. And then when we were having our second baby, we really wanted a close proximity nursery. So we ended up taking our walk-in closet and creating a nursery out of that, and then adding in this wardrobe style closet for me, which has been really nice. I like to kind of see everything at once, and it's been great to have it right next to the bathroom. It used to be kind of on the opposite side of the room, and the flow of the space wasn't great. So we brought in IKEA dressers and had a carpenter just kind of put those together in a way. We were doing this real fast before we had a baby, as I kind of figured out what we needed to change about the space, and I was in full nesting mode. And so Kevin and I, on a weekend, we put up shelving, and then I had our seamstress do curtains and this little valance to make it feel kind of cabana-y and feel like a retail store in a way. So I have loved that, and I love like seeing the color and the pattern of clothes that I love. So the bed was something that we ordered, just kind of a stock headboard, and had our seamstress make a slipcover for it, and then had a matching bed skirt made in I think it's discontinued now, but a clearance house fabric that we loved. And then kept bedding really simple, and love like just the pattern of a quilt. Like I love mixing stripes in with everything, so I think we embraced kind of a pattern mixture there. And then the drapes are a sister parish fabric that I love, and had like I love continuing a soft buttery moment kind of throughout the whole house, and it's a nice kind of connective tissue between things. My bedside is normally covered up with collections of things and books and photos, and so it's kind of fun to have that space to lay things out and have everything we need there. So this is something that my favorite Papa, who I loved dearly, he made for my nursery. And so it's just been a piece that's always kind of been part of, all of our spaces. And it's currently Kevin's closet now in the shuffle of things. This piece here is a vintage piece I found, and I love a coastal moment, and so this is kind of just a nice serene picture that I can picture myself at a little yellow beach cottage by the sea before bed every night. So off of our bedroom, we have what used to be our walk-in closet, but even before that, it had been part of an old bedroom. So it has a window in it, and it just felt like a really natural space to have this really sweet kind of tiny nursery. So we kind of took out all the shelving and made it a blank slate to then kind of figure out the best use of the space. We added in kind of a board and batten to just have it be kind of calm and peaceful, but I knew I wanted some pattern above, so added in this wallpaper and kind of let our color scheme build off of that. So we added in this canopy kind of over the bed when we were first setting it up for newborn, and I just loved kind of being able to add in some more pattern and texture. This is one of the very first paintings that I ever purchased for myself, and it really reminds me of one of our favorite views at Edisto, an island off of South Carolina, and so that's just a really kind of fun, sweet moment to have there. We haven't always had a chair in here, but now that Perry's kind of wanting to have her own space and play in here some and read books in here, we've added in this chair. And it definitely is like a tight space, but we found it really workable and cozy. This bookshelf, again, this is a piece that my grandfather built, and we had our carpenter, when we were adding in the board and batten and kind of redefining the space, had our carpenter build it into the space and kind of build it up on a base a little bit, and then we wallpapered the back and painted it. And it's just been a fun place to kind of display little mementos and books, and also kind of use it as active storage for things like sweaters. We've had to really make the most out of how to creatively store things in here. So it's a pretty tiny bathroom for a main suite, but we have found it very workable and usable. So when we first moved in, like, we loved that there were some vintage plumbing items like tubs and sinks and stuff like that. So we loved the peach tub, but it was paired with a really kind of murky tan tile, and it didn't do much for the color. So we renovated the space, keeping the tub, but added in bright whites with it so that there was a nice contrast of color, and it really brought the tub to life, and then kind of paired it with more like warm terracotta tones in the decorating parts of the process to really like enhance that color. We kept the tub where it was and then just tiled all the walls, and then added in kind of V-groove with a grass cloth above that adds a nice texture and color to kind of build on, and then brought that out again with these sconces that I ordered. They were white, and I thought that I was going to really love that tonal moment, but the white wasn't quite right with the paint. So I painted those, and then had my friend Annie Coley paint shades for those, just to have a moment of movement on those and some interest. I think my favorite part about our home is just how it has evolved with us over the years. I think that we moved in, and although we didn't have to do like a gut renovation from the beginning, we definitely had ideas of what we thought we would do on like a grand scale of like moving the kitchen here and doing this. And we have instead really just let it adapt to like our needs as a family over the years, and have let it kind of meet us where we are. And that's been really fun to just kind of see it in all seasons of life, and like look back at pictures when this room was a screen porch and we really enjoyed it then, and we're still enjoying it now in a different way. I think one of my biggest tips for decorating your own home is definitely just creating a space that can absorb things that you love. I think that the biggest thing with our house is that I tend to gravitate towards art in certain palettes and furniture of certain styles, and creating a space that can absorb those collections and show off like the personality of those is really important. I think that if you collect things if you're true to collecting things that really speak to you and you love, then as long as you're creating a home that will kind of absorb those things, then that's key. This is Lula's room, our soon-to-be 6-year-old, and for a really long time, her nursery had like this really bright red and white floral wallpaper with yellow accents, and was very like primary colors. And I think I always joke about like, I think our kids are they're meant to like love the things that we don't love as much, and like she's definitely pulled me out of my comfort zone in so many ways. So purple has historically been my least favorite color, and so when she asked for a purple room, it was like everything. I embraced it wholeheartedly, but it was definitely pushed me in a lot of ways. So we did a purple kind of faux grass cloth on the walls, and brought in the soft kind of butter yellow to pull to other parts of the house. And this area here, at one point, she is her mother's daughter and loves to rearrange her room. So at some points in time, like her bed was kind of tucked in this cozy bed nook and had drapes that could kind of create this little tent around her. And now she wanted this to be more of a usable stage for performances. So we moved the bed, and we sit on the bed and watch Lula shows. But it's been really fun to kind of embrace a color scheme that I wasn't as comfortable with, and see her personality kind of shine in her room, and see the things that she collects and likes to show off. Because this is a small room, kind of early on it had bifold doors, and when this was a nursery, we were worried about tiny fingers and bifold doors, so we took those off, but have found it really nice to kind of just gain the square footage of the space with the closet. So we have had a little reading nook down here for a long time for her, and books, and then kind of also houses clothing, but it's nice to kind of let the space do some different things and not just be for storage. I think a home soul is definitely given to it by like showcasing the personalities that live there. I think, like I've mentioned, like we collect a lot of local art, and I think that definitely gives a atmosphere that feels warm and inviting and has a lot of personality. And I think that color does that. I think that music on when you're having a party does that. I think that scents do that. And I think that just creating an atmosphere that shows like off who lives there, I think is the most important thing when showing the soul. The word home to me really just is a super symbolic feeling of like a place that just feels like where you want to be more than any other place. I think that we've done a lot to create kind of a warm, safe haven here that feels like this is where I want to be on the weekends, this is where I want to be with my family, and it just feels like where you feel the most comfortable.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.